Good evening, family. What if I told you that your breakthrough is not hiding in some grand revelation or sweeping transformation? What if I told you that everything you've been praying for, yearning for, and working toward could begin to unfold, not through massive change, but through something small, something quiet, something consistent? See, we live in a culture that celebrates the big moment, the instant success, the overnight miracle. We post the after, but never the process. We talk about the destination, but rarely the discipline that took us there. And in doing so, we've undervalued the power of small things done consistently. Tonight, I want to talk to you about 6 small habits, just 6. And not just any habits, these are simple, soul-rooted actions that if you lean into them with intentionality and consistency for just 21 days, will begin to change the rhythm of your life. These habits are not just about productivity, they're about alignment. Not just about improvement, but about transformation. So why 21 days? Because we are wired for pattern. Neurologists have shown us that with intention and repetition, a new behavior can carve a neural pathway in the brain. In other words, your mind and your spirit can be rewired. You don't have to live on autopilot. You don't have to keep responding from wounds, fear, or burnout. You can build again. You can begin again, and it starts small. The first habit is simple. Start your morning in stillness, not in noise. For the next 21 days, I challenge you, don't let your phone be the first voice you hear. Don't give your email, your feed, or your timeline the authority to shape your perspective before your spirit is anchored. Wake up and be still, even if just for 10 minutes. No music, no screen, just you and your breath, you and God, you and silence. You see, we underestimate silence because we're afraid of what it will reveal. But it's in stillness that you begin to hear again. Clarity doesn't shout, it whispers, and the whisper needs space. This isn't about a perfectly curated meditation routine. This is about you reclaiming your peace before the world tries to spend it. And in that stillness, begin the second habit. Speak to yourself intentionally. For 21 days, I want you to declare who you are and what your day will be before the world tells you otherwise. You might not believe the words at first, but that's okay. Speak them anyway. I am disciplined. I am enough. I am called. I am whole. This day will serve me, and I will serve it well. You're not lying to yourself. You're reminding yourself of what's true beneath the noise. Language is creative. Words build worlds. If you constantly speak from your fear, your reality will reflect that. But if you dare to speak from your faith, something in the atmosphere shifts, even if the facts haven't yet. The third habit is this. Honor your body like it's already whole. Not because of how it looks, not because of what it can do, but because it carries your purpose. For 21 days, move your body every day, not to punish it, but to partner with it. Go for a walk, stretch in the morning, dance in your kitchen. Do something that reminds you that you are alive and that being alive is sacred. Many of us have been at war with our bodies, speaking shame over them, ignoring their signals, pushing past exhaustion. But your body is not an enemy. It's the home of your assignment. And small, consistent movement is an act of reverence. When you nourish it, hydrate it, rest it, you're saying, I value what I've been given. Now, the fourth habit is one we don't talk about enough. Practice the discipline of finishing, not perfecting, finishing. Every day, choose one small task that you will complete fully. Maybe it's replying to that one email. Maybe it's organizing that one drawer. Maybe it's drinking your full water goal. Whatever it is, finish it. Because when you finish, you build trust with yourself. And that's something many of us have lost, not because we lack ability, but because we've made so many promises to ourselves that we never kept. These small completions, they're not about productivity. They're about healing your inner integrity. When you start finishing what you start, even on the micro level, you begin to see yourself differently. Fifth, every day, do one thing that scares you. Now, I don't mean reckless or dramatic acts of bravery. I'm talking about the small, uncomfortable steps that stretch your edges. Speak up in that meeting. Post the truth you've been hiding. Ask the question. Send the email. Apply for the opportunity. Make the call. Courage is a muscle, and every day you choose to face discomfort, you grow it. Some of us are stuck, not because the door is locked, but because we never knocked. Fear is a loud voice, but it's also a liar. You don't have to wait until you're not afraid to act. You just have to act with your knees shaking and your voice trembling, knowing that growth lives on the other side of that fear. And finally, the sixth habit, and perhaps the most important one, reflect every night with honesty and grace. Before you sleep, take 5 minutes to ask yourself, what did I learn today? What did I avoid? Where did I show up as my full self? Where did I shrink? Not to judge, not to shame, but to grow. You don't need a fancy journal, just a moment, a pause, because when you reflect, you take ownership. When you reflect, you stop drifting. And when you stop drifting, you begin to live on purpose. I know some of you may be thinking, that sounds good, but life is busy. I don't have the time. I've tried before and failed, and I hear you. But let me tell you something. I am not asking you for perfection. I'm inviting you into a process. These 6 habits don't require more hours in your day. They require more intentionality with what you already have. Because here's the truth, you don't rise to the level of your intentions, you fall to the level of your habits. If your habits are rooted in anxiety, avoidance, self-doubt, and survival, you will keep cycling through frustration. But if your habits, even the small ones, are rooted in clarity, courage, and care, you begin to build a life that reflects your deepest truths. These 6 habits are small, but they are sacred. They don't require you to uproot your life, just to plant new seeds. And if you water those seeds every day, you will see fruit. The person you want to become, the peace you long for, the clarity you crave, the confidence you admire in others, it's not as far as it seems. It's 21 days of choosing to be present instead of distracted, to speak life instead of doubt, to finish something instead of scrolling past it, to move instead of numb, to reflect instead of forget, to act even when you're afraid. And when you do that, you will look up, not even far from now, and realize you've changed. Not because everything around you changed, but because everything within you did. And here's what I want you to take with you tonight. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are not too late. You are not too much. You are not stuck. You are capable of radical transformation through small, consistent action. You don't need more motivation. You need structure. You don't need a miracle. You need to steward what you already have. And when you do that, day by day, minute by minute, the shift begins. The fog lifts, the heaviness lightens, the path clears, and the life you thought was too far off becomes your reality. Not because you hustled harder, but because you were faithful in the small. So I challenge you, start tonight, not tomorrow, tonight. Pick one of these habits. Set your intention. Don't wait for the mood. Choose your movement. And 21 days from now, come back to yourself. Not a stranger, not a disappointment, but someone who chose to show up even when it was hard. Someone who didn't need applause to begin. Someone who didn't need perfection to persist. Family, transformation isn't loud. It isn't instant, but it is possible. 6 small habits, 21 days, a new rhythm, a new reality, a new you. Let's begin. And I know some of you may feel a quiet hesitation rising up inside. That part of you that whispers, but what if I don't finish? What if I fall off halfway? What if I miss a day or two? And let me say this gently but clearly. Grace is not the opposite of discipline. It is the foundation of it. We've been conditioned to believe that discipline must be brutal, that it's only real if it's rigid. But that's not how transformation happens. Real, sustainable change is built on the kind of discipline that is rooted in love. Love says, I see your humanity. I know some days will be hard, but I will not quit on myself. Discipline isn't about never falling. It's about learning how to stand again, quickly and without shame. It's about showing up the next day like the last misstep didn't define you, because it doesn't. You're not doing this to impress anyone. You're doing this because you finally realize that your life is worth being intentional about, that your peace is worth protecting, that your potential is not a myth. It just needs a structure to grow in. And let's be honest, 21 days might not be enough to perfect a habit, but it's more than enough to ignite momentum. Because what you build in those 3 weeks is not just a checklist, it's a pattern of self-respect. It's the turning point between reacting to life and leading it. That's why these 6 habits matter. Not because they're trendy, not because they're easy, but because they realign you with yourself. They help you close the gap between your intentions and your actions, between your dreams and your discipline, between who you are and who you are becoming. And in case you've forgotten, becoming is messy. It is not a straight line. There are no clean timelines when it comes to growth. There will be days you feel like you're thriving and others where you wonder if anything is working at all. And both are part of the process. You may not feel different on day 3. You may not see a breakthrough on day 7. But don't mistake delay for denial. Something is happening beneath the surface. And often the deepest work is invisible. It's not flashy. It's not loud, but it is building, strengthening, shifting. And I want to speak directly to the high achievers in the room, the ones who know how to perform, who know how to show up for everyone else, but who rarely pause long enough to ask, am I showing up for myself? Your ability to do many things well is not the same as being well. You can accomplish a lot and still feel hollow. You can lead others and still feel lost within. And that's why these small habits are not just practical, they are personal. They are your way of telling yourself, I matter too. Because when you take time in the morning to be still, you're saying, I am not defined by urgency. When you speak to yourself with intention, you're saying, I will no longer repeat the voice of my critic when I have the power to be my own encourager. When you move your body in reverence, not resentment, you're saying, this body has carried me through more than I ever gave it credit for, and I will honor that. When you finish the small things, you're saying, I am trustworthy. I follow through, even with myself. When you do the scary thing, you're saying, fear will not run my life. It may ride with me, but it does not get to drive. And when you reflect with grace each night, you're saying, I am still learning, and that is something to celebrate, not hide. You see, this isn't about habit for habit's sake. It's about forming a new relationship with yourself. Because the truth is, many of us are tired not just from what we do, but from how we treat ourselves while doing it. The internal dialogue, the self-imposed pressure, the quiet comparison we rarely admit to. But this season requires something different from you. It requires more honesty, more compassion, more alignment. The version of you that will emerge after 21 days of intentional practice is not some new persona. It's the truest version of you finally rising to the surface. And let me tell you what happens when that version of you shows up. You begin to attract differently because clarity is magnetic. When you walk in alignment, doors that used to feel locked begin to open, not because the external changed, but because your internal posture did. You begin to discern better. You're no longer seduced by chaos or caught in the urgency of other people's agendas. You can sense what's for you and what's just noise. You begin to trust yourself more, no longer second-guessing every decision or outsourcing your confidence to other people's validation. You become the one who can sit with uncertainty and still move with authority. And most importantly, you begin to feel at home within yourself, not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer fragmented. You're no longer running from yourself or trying to prove something to a world that is too distracted to notice your performance anyway. This is about wholeness, and wholeness is not a finish line, it's a way of living. These habits are the scaffolding, the structure, the rhythm, and I want you to remember this. Anything sustainable is built slowly. If you try to do too much, too fast, you'll burn out. But if you build small, consistent patterns, they will outlast the hype. They will carry you through the days when motivation disappears, because motivation is seasonal, but discipline, that kind of discipline rooted in love, it's the thing that steadies you when life shakes, and life will shake. This isn't a promise of ease, it's an invitation to resilience. Because transformation isn't about escaping pain, it's about being equipped for it. It's about facing storms without crumbling. It's about knowing that no matter what the day brings, you have an internal system to return to, a rhythm that grounds you, a daily practice that reminds you, I can handle this. So yes, this is more than a habit plan. This is a spiritual realignment. This is a recommitment to yourself. This is your soul's way of saying, I'm ready. And I want you to take that seriously. Don't just hear these words and move on. Sit with them. Let them land. Choose one habit today and commit to it like it's sacred, because it is. Write it down. Set a reminder. Tell someone you trust, not for accountability alone, but for agreement. There's power in agreement. When someone else stands with you in your decision to grow, it multiplies the strength of your resolve. Maybe you start with stillness. Maybe you start with reflection. Maybe it's speaking those affirmations even if your voice shakes. Whatever it is, start. Not because you need to prove something, but because something inside of you knows it's time. And in case no one has told you this lately, hear me clearly. Your effort matters. Your progress matters. The small steps, the quiet days, the almost gave ups, all of it counts. You don't need to do it perfectly. You just need to keep showing up. You are worthy of a life that feels like alignment. You are worthy of peace that isn't fleeting. You are worthy of progress that doesn't drain you. You are worthy of a rhythm that honors your humanity. So start the 21 days, not to chase transformation, but to awaken it. It's already in you. All you need to do now is act like it. And one day, not far from now, you'll look back and say, that was the turning point. Not because everything suddenly became easy, but because you decided to take yourself seriously. Because you chose to build, brick by brick, a life that feels like truth. So walk out of this moment with your head a little higher, your steps a little steadier, your heart a little more open. You don't need more time. You don't need the perfect setup. You just need to begin. The life you long for is not on the other side of some distant dream. It's on the other side of 21 days of small, sacred, consistent steps. And the beautiful thing is, you don't have to do it alone. We do this together. We grow together. We rise together. Let's build this life. One day, one habit, one moment at a time. And when the 21 days are done, don't stop. Don't retreat. Let it be the new floor, not the ceiling. Let it be your launch pad, not your limit. Let it be your evidence that change doesn't always need fireworks. Sometimes it just needs faith. Faith in your capacity to change. Faith in your worthiness to grow. Faith in the process, even when you can't yet see the fruit. Because the seed knows what the tree doesn't yet understand. Everything begins underground, quiet, unseen, but alive. So go, start, breathe, build. Your 21 days start now. And when you finish, don't be surprised when your life starts to look like something you used to only pray for. Because this time, you didn't just hope for change. You chose it, and you kept choosing until change became who you are. Not something you chase, but something you embody. That's the power of small things done in sacred rhythm. And that is how your life begins to change. You know, something sacred happens when a person decides to take ownership of their life, not in theory, not in fleeting moments of motivation, but in practice, in the quiet day-to-day decisions that nobody else sees. That's where the real work happens. And more importantly, that's where the real you emerges. There's a version of you that isn't waiting to be created, but to be revealed, not invented, uncovered. It's been buried beneath layers of distractions, of old narratives, of the roles you've played for survival. But when you commit to showing up differently, even in small, consistent ways, you start brushing off that dust. You start recognizing your voice again, your rhythm, your truth. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you looked at yourself and felt proud, not just of what you've done, but of who you're becoming? Not the curated image, not the accolades, not the performance, just you. That's what these 21 days are about. They're not about forcing transformation. They're about remembering. Remembering that you're not just here to get by. You're here to live fully, with clarity, with courage, with conviction. And no, it won't always feel good. Growth rarely does. But the discomfort is a sign that you're stretching into something real. And don't let the simplicity of these habits fool you. Stillness, affirmation, movement, completion, courage, and reflection. These may seem small, but they are strategic because they disrupt the cycles that keep you stuck. They interrupt the lies you've internalized. They challenge the patterns that have worn grooves into your days. When you sit in stillness, you stop letting urgency write your story. When you speak truth over yourself, you begin to rewrite the narrative that shame has been narrating for far too long. When you honor your body, you stop seeing it as an obstacle and start treating it like an ally. When you finish things, small things, you begin rebuilding self-trust brick by brick. When you choose courage, you break the agreement you've made with fear. And when you reflect, you shift from living reactively to living with intention. Every habit is a declaration, a small daily way of saying, I am no longer available for the version of me that just copes. I'm here to thrive. And I'm not here to tell you that every day will feel powerful. Some days will feel mechanical. Some days you will go through the motions with clenched fists and tired eyes. But hear me, doing it imperfectly still counts. Showing up weary still counts. And when you look back, you'll see it was never about how polished your practice was. It was about how faithful you were to the choice. You chose to be intentional. You chose to get back up. You chose to whisper truth when lies felt louder. And I want to speak directly to the part of you that has tried before. The part that remembers the journal you started but never finished. The diet you began but couldn't maintain. The self-help books that now sit unopened. That version of you is not a failure. That version was simply trying to survive. But now it's different, because now you're not approaching this from a place of pressure. You're approaching it from a place of alignment. You're not trying to fix yourself. You're learning to be with yourself. You're not trying to perfect your life. You're choosing to partner with your life. That's a holy shift. And I want you to consider this. What if these 21 days aren't just about you? What if your consistency becomes someone else's inspiration? What if your decision to grow makes room for someone else to believe it's possible for them too? We don't change in isolation. Our transformation creates ripples. Maybe it's the coworker who notices your clarity and starts asking deeper questions about their own path. Maybe it's your child who watches you choose discipline over despair and begins to trust their own resilience. Maybe it's a friend who sees the peace you now carry and realizes there is another way. You never know who your healing is making space for. And no, that's not pressure. It's purpose. You matter not just in what you do, but in who you are becoming. And don't worry about starting big. Start true. Start real. There is nothing too small when it's aligned. And the moment you stop waiting for the perfect conditions, you start to understand what it means to walk in purpose. Let your habits become an act of worship, a declaration that your life is worth building with intention, that your peace is not optional, that your growth is not negotiable. Because here's the truth, the life you want is on the other side of rhythms you haven't yet learned to trust. But that's what these 21 days are for, to test the ground, to plant the seed, to water it with your yes over and over and over. And there will be moments when the old you calls you back, when the comfort of avoidance feels tempting, when distraction disguises itself as relief. In those moments, I want you to pause and breathe. And remember, you are not obligated to return to what you've outgrown. You don't owe loyalty to your coping mechanisms. You don't have to make a home out of survival when you've been called to thrive. Let every small action be your quiet rebellion against chaos, against resignation, against the lie that says this is just the way I am. No, you are still unfolding, still becoming, still choosing. And that choice, that small, sacred daily choice, it is powerful, it is holy. So let's be practical for a moment. I want you to visualize your day, not just the tasks, but the energy behind them. Where can you make space for stillness? Even 5 minutes in the morning before the world grabs your attention. Can you sit? Breathe, listen. What will you speak over yourself before you check your messages, before you scroll, before you absorb the world's noise? Can you declare your identity before others try to define it for you? Where can you move your body in a way that honors it, not punishes it, not shames it, honors it? Can you walk outside? Can you stretch while the coffee brews? Can you choose presence over performance? What's one thing, just one, you will complete today? Maybe it's a lingering task. Maybe it's as simple as drinking your water or organizing that small space. Completion is not about the size of the task. It's about restoring trust with yourself. What is something uncomfortable, something bold that you can do today? Maybe it's a conversation. Maybe it's a new boundary. Maybe it's saying no where you used to say yes. Let discomfort be your teacher, not your enemy. And finally, how will you reflect tonight? Can you sit in silence for just a few minutes and ask, what did I learn about myself today? Where did I grow? Where do I want to do better tomorrow? No judgment, just presence, just truth. These are not rigid rules. They are invitations, daily reminders that you are not powerless, that you are not behind, that you are not forgotten. This is the season where you get to reintroduce yourself to yourself, not with grand declarations, but with quiet faithfulness, not with a loud entrance, but with sustained presence. And that, family, is what changes lives, not what happens in the spotlight, but what happens in the secret place, in the stillness, in the repetition, in the refusal to give up when nobody is watching. So take these habits not as burdens, but as keys to unlock the clarity you've prayed for, the strength you've needed, the healing you've been walking toward. Let these next 21 days be your evidence that small things done with intention lead to transformation. Let them be your reminder that you don't need a new year, a new job, a new relationship to start over. You just need a new rhythm. And let this moment be your beginning. You are not starting from scratch. You are starting from wisdom, from resilience, from everything you've survived and everything you still carry. You are ready. So begin with a deep breath. with an open heart, with one habit at a time. And 21 days from now, when the dust has settled and the shift has taken root, you will know it was never about perfection. It was about the decision to live like your life matters, because it does. And now, so do your habits. And as we move forward together, I want you to really think about the person you're becoming, not just in how you act, but in how you carry your spirit. Because this journey, this practice of cultivating small but meaningful habits isn't only about outcomes. It's about embodiment. It's about embodying the truth that you don't have to wait to be whole. You're already enough. These habits aren't making you worthy. They're revealing that you've always been worthy. It's a different kind of posture when you no longer strive to prove, but instead choose to align. When you move from desperation to devotion, from chaos to rhythm, from disconnection to presence. And I want you to understand something. Presence is one of the rarest and most powerful things you can offer yourself. We live in a world that trains us to chase, to scroll, to compare, to numb. So to pause, to breathe, to return to yourself day after day. That is resistance. That is leadership. That is power. It's easy to underestimate the gravity of what you're doing, but it's not small. It's not casual. The decision to keep showing up, to build structure in your internal life is a revolutionary act, especially when everything around you is urging you to be everywhere but here, to be everything but yourself. This isn't just personal development. This is spiritual discipline. And yes, I use that word intentionally. Discipline, not the harsh kind that shames, the holy kind that anchors, the kind that says, I know who I am, and because I know, I act accordingly. Because let's be honest, we all reach points in life where the old way of doing things no longer works. The overextending, the overperforming, the chronic waiting for someday, the hiding in perfectionism, the delaying joy, it all starts to break down. And if you felt that, if you felt the restlessness, the discontent, the sense that something in your spirit is calling you deeper, that's not failure. That's the beginning of alignment. You don't need another crash to wake up. You don't need a dramatic breakdown to start over. You just need a decision, one that's honest, one that's quiet, one that says, I'm ready for a different kind of rhythm. Let me tell you what happens when people truly embrace that kind of rhythm. I've seen it. I've walked with people through it. The external might not shift overnight, but the internal becomes unshakable. Your peace deepens. Your relationships begin to feel more honest. Your energy is no longer scattered in 100 directions. It's focused, clear, rooted. You stop negotiating with your worth. You stop making room for people or patterns that dishonor your values. You stop chasing hustle and start choosing health. That's the shift. It's not always loud, but it is always lasting. And here's what's remarkable. When you begin to trust that you can lead yourself, your external world will begin to reflect that belief. You will move differently in rooms. You'll speak from conviction, not performance. You'll discern quickly what's worth your time and what isn't. This clarity doesn't come by accident. It's cultivated, watered, protected. That's why these 21 days are so vital. You're not just building habits. You're building a home within yourself, a home that can hold your truth, a home that isn't easily shaken when things outside of you get loud, a home where your dreams have structure and your spirit has space, because the life you're trying to create can't grow in chaos. It needs consistency. It needs clarity. It needs room to breathe. And that's what you're doing with every daily action. You're creating space, space to heal, space to think clearly, space to connect deeply, space to move intentionally. Think about it. How many of your past frustrations came from reacting instead of responding, from rushing instead of resting, from disconnecting instead of dealing, from fear instead of faith? This is your reset. This is your reminder that you don't need to be led by whatever shouts the loudest. You can lead from a deeper place. You can wake up with intention. You can speak life over yourself before the world speaks doubt. You can move with reverence. You can finish with clarity. You can choose courage even when it's quiet. You can reflect and grow without shame. You can live differently. You can be both soft and disciplined. You can be both healing and ambitious. You can be both tender and tenacious. These things are not contradictions. They are balance. And that's what this rhythm is inviting you into. Not a life of extremes, not a life of overcorrecting, a life of balance, of integration, of grounded transformation. And I'll be honest with you, some people won't understand the quiet work you're doing. They might not see the shift right away. They might expect you to be who you used to be, but that's okay. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your evolution. The fruit will speak for itself. So don't explain, don't defend, just keep growing, quietly, faithfully, powerfully. And when doubt creeps in, because it will, I want you to remember what brought you here. Not the hype, not the pressure, but the longing, that deep sacred longing to live with more peace, more purpose, more presence. That longing is holy, that longing is honest, and it will lead you well if you let it. So don't measure these 21 days by perfection, measure them by presence. Did you show up? Did you keep going? Did you choose alignment over autopilot? Did you honor your pace? That's how transformation happens, in presence, in patience, in practice. And if you feel weary on the way, pause, breathe, rest, but don't quit. Quitting is not your story anymore. You've already come too far to go back to normal. Normal didn't work. That's why you're here. You're here because you're choosing something more, something deeper, something true. And let me tell you, on the other side of these 21 days, you will not just see change, you will feel different. You will feel connected to yourself in a way that feels solid, grounded, safe. That's what happens when you become a trustworthy home to your own spirit. So carry that trust with you, build it every day, and let these habits be more than tasks. Let them be touchstones, reminders of the life you're called to build, because the most powerful thing you can do in a world that thrives on speed and noise is to slow down and build something intentional. You don't need more hustle, you need more heart. You don't need more perfection, you need more presence. You don't need more validation, you need more alignment. So today, begin again, not with pressure, but with permission. Permission to grow slowly, permission to rest as needed, permission to fail forward, permission to return to yourself. And when these 21 days are done, don't stop, don't revert. Let this rhythm evolve, let it expand, let it become the way you live. Because when you live from this place, you won't have to force growth, it will flow. When you live from this place, you won't need to chase peace, it will find you. When you live from this place, you won't have to prove your worth, you'll embody it. This is your moment. You've heard the invitation. Now answer it with presence, with purpose, with a quiet but unwavering yes, because you are ready and your life is waiting. And as you continue walking out this journey, I want to offer you something practical yet deeply spiritual, an anchor you can return to on the hard days. Because yes, they will come, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because growth isn't linear. Some days will feel like revelation and others like resistance. Both are sacred, both are part of the process. When the resistance shows up, don't panic, don't judge it, just pause and remember, this tension is not a sign to quit, it's a sign you're stretching. And when you're stretching, your spirit is expanding to hold more of what's possible, more peace, more courage, more clarity. So even in the stretch, stay committed to the stillness that reminds you who you are, to the affirmations that plant new truths in the soil of your mind, to the movement that teaches you your body is a partner in this process, to the completion of small tasks that remind you I can follow through, to the brave, uncomfortable choices that build muscle memory for courage, to the reflection that keeps you honest, grounded, and deeply connected. This rhythm isn't about discipline for the sake of performance. It's about devotion to your own becoming. It's about the sacred act of partnering with your future self, not in theory, but in rhythm. And there's a beauty to that kind of devotion, a dignity, a quiet strength, because you're not trying to impress anyone, you're not proving anything, you're not measuring your value by how perfect your practice is, you're measuring it by how faithfully you return. And you will return again and again, not out of fear, but out of love, out of desire, out of reverence for the life you are building. Let that become your new narrative. I show up because I am worth it. I show up because my peace matters. I show up because I am becoming someone who can be trusted with vision, with purpose, with joy. The more you show up, the more you begin to witness the truth about who you are, not who the world said you were, not who your past tried to define you as, not the sum of your fears or failures, but the real you, the anchored you, the whole you, and that version of you. Oh, they don't live on autopilot anymore. They don't settle for patterns that numb or distract. They don't hand over their power to the loudest opinion or the heaviest emotion. They live with intention. They speak with authority. They walk with grace. And it's not because their life is perfect. It's because their rhythm is purposeful. You don't get there overnight, but you get there. One day, one habit, one breath at a time. And every time you choose to stay the course, to press in even when it feels slow, you are laying the foundation for a life that can carry your dreams. Because dreams without discipline crumble, vision without structure fades. But when you build with intention, even the quiet parts of your life become sacred. So take stock of what's shifting. Take stock of how you speak to yourself now. Take stock of the peace you've begun to protect, of the boundaries you've started to set, of the ways you no longer abandon yourself to be acceptable to others. That's not random. That's fruit. That's evidence. That's the power of daily decisions rooted in alignment. And maybe no one else sees all of it. Maybe no one applauds the inner work. But that's okay. That's not why you're doing it. You're doing it because you've seen what it costs to stay disconnected. You know what it feels like to run on empty. And you're no longer available for a life that drains you. You are choosing the slow, steady road of rebuilding. And that road may not always look glamorous, but it is good, it is holy, it is strong. It's the kind of foundation that doesn't shake when the storm comes. Because let's be honest, the storm will come. Life will throw you curveballs. Disappointments will surface. Unexpected detours will happen. But the difference now is that you're rooted. You have habits that hold you. You've trained your spirit to return to center. You've built a language of truth that drowns out the lies. You've developed rhythms that steady you when everything else feels uncertain. That's what transformation looks like. Not just the glow up people can see, but the internal solidity no one can take away. And if you've made it this far, if you've been walking through these days with consistency, even with imperfection, then I want to celebrate you. Not because you've checked a box, but because you've stayed true to a process that is changing your life from the inside out. And even if you've stumbled, even if some days you've missed the mark, I want to remind you, transformation is not a straight line. It's a spiral. You revisit the same spaces again and again, but each time with deeper awareness, more grace, more strength. So don't let the voice of shame convince you that starting over means you failed. It doesn't. Starting over means you've remembered, and remembering is sacred. You remembered that your joy matters, that your energy is sacred, that your presence is powerful, that your inner life deserves attention, not just your achievements. That's wisdom, that's healing, that's maturity. And that's what these 21 days have been about. Less about changing your entire life overnight and more about learning how to live with yourself, how to stay present when it would be easier to numb, how to stay honest when it would be easier to pretend, how to stay aligned when it would be easier to perform. So as you step forward, don't think of this as an end. Think of it as a beginning, the beginning of a rhythm you can keep expanding, the beginning of a relationship with yourself that is marked by trust and truth and tenderness. Let these habits evolve with you. Some days your stillness might look like sitting in silence. Other days it might be journaling, walking, praying, simply breathing. Let it be what you need that day. Let your affirmations deepen as your awareness grows. Speak to the future you, yes, but also to the now you. Remind yourself who you are when the world tries to make you forget. Let your movement be joyful. Let it feel like a celebration, not a punishment. Let it connect you back to your body as a sacred space, not something to control, but something to listen to. Keep finishing small things. Every checked box, every small task honored rebuilds the foundation of self-trust that so many of us were taught to dismiss. Keep choosing courage, even when your voice trembles, even when your knees shake, even when fear tries to disguise itself as wisdom. Courage is not always loud, but it is always loyal to your becoming. And keep reflecting. Because reflection turns experience into wisdom. It turns your days into data. It teaches you how to pivot, how to grow, how to let go. Reflection teaches you how to live.